The moment my twin sister, Clara, showed up on my doorstep, a shadow of her former self, I knew something was terribly wrong. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were hollow. She told me everything about the years of quiet manipulation, the emotional prison her husband, Daniel, had built around her. He controlled her every move, her finances, her friendships, until she felt completely isolated. Listening to her, a cold, hard resolve settled in my heart. Daniel had picked on the wrong family. He was about to learn that when you mess with one of us, you mess with both of us. The plan was audacious, maybe even a little crazy, but it was the only way Clara needed to heal, to find herself again, far away from his toxic influence. So we decided to switch places. She went to a secluded retreat I'd arranged, a place where she could breathe freely while I stepped into her life. I would become Clara. I studied her mannerisms, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the soft, hesitant way she spoke around Daniel. I packed my bags and moved into their pristine, cold house, ready to play the part of a lifetime. The first few days were nerve-wracking. Daniel, smug and self-assured, didn't suspect a thing. To him, I was just his docile, obedient wife, exactly where he wanted her. He had no idea the game had changed, and he was no longer the one in control. Living in that house was like walking on eggshells. Daniel's control was absolute. He'd comment on the wrong brand of coffee I bought, or question why a bill was a few dollars higher than last month. He'd praise me with a smile that never reached his eyes, a subtle reminder that his approval was something to be earned. But I wasn't Clara. I wasn't intimidated. Every condescending remark, every controlling gesture, I logged away in my mind. I played the part of the submissive wife flawlessly, all while my mind was worried, searching for cracks in his perfect facade. I knew his arrogance was his biggest weakness, and I was going to use it to bring him down. My first priority was to find proof, something concrete that would free my sister for good. His home office, a room Clara was rarely allowed to enter, was my first target. Late one night, while he was out on one of his frequent business dinners, I slipped inside. It was a treasure trove. I started with his laptop. It was password protected, of course, but he was predictable. The password was the date he closed his first major dealer date he bragged about constantly. Once I was in, it was all there. I found hidden folders detailing shady financial transactions. Client funds being funneled into a secret personal account, and emails that confirmed my darkest suspicions. He wasn't just a manipulator, he was a criminal. I carefully copied everything onto a hidden flash drive. This was more than just about freeing my sister. It was about ensuring he faced real, legal consequences for his actions. The next discovery was even more shocking. Tucked away in his browser history was a link to a social media profile under a different name. It was a woman I didn't recognize. Photos of them together on romantic getaways, messages filled with promises of a future together, a future built on the money he was stealing. He was living a complete double life. The audacity of it all fueled my resolve. I documented every post, every message. I even managed to activate a small voice-activated recorder I'd hidden in his office. It captured his phone calls, discussions of his illegal schemes, and his blatant lies to his business partners. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin I was building for him. He thought he was playing a game of chess, but he didn't realize I'd already checkmated him from the very beginning. With the evidence secured, it was time for phase 2, the psychological game. I started small. I'd move his keys from the hook where he always left them to the kitchen counter. When he'd get frustrated looking for them, I'd find them and say, with wide-eyed innocence, "But, honey, you left them right here." I started preparing his coffee slightly differently each morning, a little weaker. He noticed, of course, "This coffee tastes different," he'd mutter, and I'd just smile and say, "It's the same brand we always get, dear. Are you feeling all right?" These were minor things, easily dismissed, but they were designed to plant a tiny seed of doubt in his mind. The man who prided himself on his sharp memory and control was starting to feel like he was losing his grip. The little manipulations grew bolder. I started referencing conversations we never had. "Remember when you said we should repaint the living room blue?" I'd ask. He'd stare at me, confused. "I never said that." I'd look hurt. "You did, last Tuesday. Don't you remember?" The more he denied it, the more I'd insist, feigning concern for his forgetfulness. I brought it up with his mother on the phone, mentioning how forgetful Daniel had been lately, knowing she'd bring it up with him. He started getting angry, then paranoid. The man who had expertly gaslighted my sister for years was now getting a taste of his own medicine. He was so used to being the puppet master, he couldn't comprehend that his own strings were being pulled. His confidence began to fray at the edges, and his composure started to crack. The final act was set. I arranged a family dinner, inviting his parents and a few of his closest business associates, the very people he had been deceiving. Clara, now stronger and more resolute than ever, returned the morning of the dinner. The look on Daniel's face when we both walked into the living room, side by side, was something I will never forget. For a split second, his world tilted on its axis. He looked from me to Clara, his mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. The smug control was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. His parents and colleagues looked on, completely baffled. The performance was over. It was time for the truth. "Daniel," I said, my voice clear and steady, "I think there are a few things we need to discuss." I pulled out the small recorder and pressed play. His voice filled the silent room, boasting about his financial scams, talking to his mistress, and belittling my sister. The color drained from his face. His mother gasped. His business partners stared at him in disbelief. But I wasn't finished. I connected my laptop to the television, and the screen lit up with his secret bank statements, the incriminating emails, the photos of his double life. It was all there, undeniable and damning. There was nowhere for him to hide. The man who had built his entire life on lies was being consumed by them in front of everyone he had fooled. The aftermath was exactly as I had planned. His business partners immediately distanced themselves and launched an internal investigation. With the mountain of evidence I provided, the authorities opened a formal case against him. His world crumbled, just as he had crumbled my sister's. Watching him being led away, stripped of his power and his pride, wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. It was for every tear Clara shed, for every moment she doubted herself. Today, my sister is thriving. She's rediscovered her passion for painting, reconnected with old friends, and her laughter fills a room again. She is free. And as for Daniel, he learned a valuable lesson. You should never underestimate the power of a sister's love. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.